Hey everybody, welcome to the episode of Black Girls Make Music. I'm Alicia Renese and I'm here with Rolanda Carter. Yay! So if you could please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself. Who is Rolanda? What makes you come alive and what are you passionate about?
Okay. Well, my name is Rolanda Carter. I am a singer and songwriter. That's what I do. But who I am, I'm a lover of people. I'm a lover of God. I'm a child of God. And people and the Lord are what kind of like helped me to come alive. And music is the vehicle that I use to really connect with people and kind of share the things that I am passionate about and the things that kind of the tough parts of life that we don't always get to talk about. I like to put them through song and just kind of start a dialogue from there. Like I said, I love work. I don't know if I said that, but I do. I love working with children. I'm a music therapist and I'm about to be board certified. And I like, helping children to like kind of realize like their social and emotional needs because sometimes they don't always get that. So that's a little bit about the work that I do and I'm aspiring to do. So yeah, that's me.
That's exciting. So like with music therapy, like how does that work? Like what exactly is music therapy for people who don't know?
Okay, so music therapy is its own field. So like a lot of times when people find out you're a music therapist, they say, well, what do you want to do with that? Well, we want to be a music therapist. They work in lots of different places from schools to private practices, hospitals, hospices, nursing homes. And basically we use music in different ways to like target different goals. So one of the ways that you might use music, if somebody has issues with their gait, which is the way they walk, you might use music to kind of like, everybody is something, there's a intervention that kind of primes when you hear like a click. If you hear somebody walking in the hall and they have heels on, we're like really inclined to walk with them, right? And that's like a metronome. So music therapy, for example, in this example, we would create a metronome and that person with those gait issues will be able to walk, you know what I mean, in an even way. So that's a little bit about music therapy. There are plenty of interventions like that to meet different people.
Yeah, that's really cool. I never knew that.
Yeah.
I think I've heard of it in a sense of like working with children. You mostly hear about I hear about mostly like, art therapy and like music therapy and like using that with kids. But I didn't even really consider that about like physical therapy or like with people who are in hospice care and things like that. So that's actually really cool.
Yeah, it's the other side of it.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you can recall, like what is your first musical memory like that sticks out to you?
Okay, so it's a little like interesting. So my mother used to tell me to go do something in my room. She'd be like, "Belong to go clean up the room," right? And my mom and daddy got me a piano, a little keyboard, and I would go to my room very quietly and seemingly obediently, and then I would bang on the keyboard and create this song, and it was called Power.
Okay.
So I'm like, I've grown to be a little, I don't know, I'm probably, that little girl is still in me, like very dramatic, whatever. But that's my first memory. That was my first song.
Yeah.
It was called Power. And I would bang on the keyboard. It didn't matter what the notes were. It did have a little rhythm to it. Power. Yeah. So that's my first musical memory.
That's really cool. So did you first become acquainted with music by just like playing around with piano, or was there musicians in your family?
Well, my dad is my dad is a drummer. And I didn't really get to see him play drums too much because by the time I was born, he didn't play. But I have lots of siblings. I'm the youngest of 7, and they played different instruments. My brother played piano and trombone. My sister played clarinet. Another one played French horn. So I probably saw that happening. Yeah. But then too, like my mom used to play really good music. So like, I think that was a big influence too.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I think we all have, I think at some point, I think especially like a lot of Black parents, like the music they would play, like definitely influences a lot of, and the music that they were exposed to, whether it be in church or like on the radio or whatever, kind of influences their musical, I guess, tastes. And so therefore influences their music in turn. So that's really cool. Cause even if your parent doesn't play music, like just the, I think like the spirit behind enjoying music, I think has more of an influence too. Like,
yeah.
So I think that's really cool.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
And like you make what we choose to put out, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So you start off as a little girl, like being, I guess, disobedient and playing the piano while you should be cleaning your room.
Yes.
Like, so take us through that journey. Like, how did you, like, you saw your older siblings playing instruments and things like that, and your dad was a drummer. So how did you, in turn, like, take music for yourself, not just to be enjoyed, but to be, produced to?
Yeah. Well, I wanted, so it was kind of hard for me to find a way to get into music, right? Because there was music happening around me. And then, like, my brother might have let me play his mouthpiece for the trombone or something, but I couldn't play trombone. There was a point where I had piano lessons, but I didn't really like gravitate towards those either. But what happened was I started rapping, which is very random. It's very random. Like, in elementary school, I was in 3rd grade, and something happened where we could no longer play on our playground outside. So, in recess, you can either line, which is very, you can either line dance or go to the classroom and have free time.
Yeah.
So, I would go between, one day I'm gonna line dance, one day I'm gonna do free time. But our lunch aide, Mr. Dixon or Mr. D, he would beatbox and we would freestyle, right?
That's so cool.
And from there, around that same time, my sister gave me a journal, so I would write poems, and then it was writing raps. So that was the way that I dealt with music for first time for myself. And I grew up my mother did not play secular music, so I remember my classmates rapping "Many Men" by 50 Cent.
Oh, really?
I knew the lyrics, but I had never heard the song. Many men, many, many.
Yeah.
Men. I had never heard the song, but I knew the song because my classmates would rap it. So. Hip hop was actually my first choosing it for myself, and that's the lyrics came first and that kind of cadence, but it wasn't an instrument. Not until I learned how to play the trumpet when I was in the 5th grade.
Yeah. That's really cool. I love that because I feel like hip hop gets a bad rep, and I understand because some of the things that are adult themes, I guess I should say, for children just inappropriate, right? But a lot of times, we don't realize how much hip hop has influence, how much it is poetry, how much it is it is speaking for a whole culture of people, a whole subculture, subgroup. And we look down on it like it's not real art, you know what I'm saying? But it is. Yeah. And it's natural. Like you talk about rhythm and stuff. I remember I was in high school and there would always be people on at the lunch table, just rapping, just your beats. And it's interesting that you say voice as an instrument because it is, you know what I'm saying? It is an instrument. And I just wish more people would appreciate, I guess, just the voice by itself and what it can do, what it can say. Yes, singing, sure, but also speaking and yeah.
I definitely agree. I think the thing about hip hop, because I used to be a hip hop head, it can be really serious. I don't listen to it as much anymore, kind of for some of the reasons that you mentioned. It can be a little wild.
Yeah.
But I think one thing that happens with Black music is we don't get to be as versatile. There's so many different sides of hip hop. Yeah. And and there's a discussion of rap versus hip hop, but there's so many different sides. So to throw the whole genre away is really unfair and robs us of the very, very good stuff that's happening even now. Sure, there's stuff that I'm not gonna listen to because I'm kind of particular about what I listen to, and that I would not want any of the children I worked with to listen to, even though they do. But there's a whole nother side of stuff that I love, you know what I mean? And that is very good. And sometimes I think with Black music is everything has to be, positive and everything has to be uplifting, or I can't even find the word that I'm trying to find, but there's a something that we're supposed to appear a certain way. And I don't think that that's necessarily fair because music is supposed to represent the entire experience of a person, right? And even though you might make music that does not represent my experience, I respect your experience at the very least. And it doesn't even need to go beyond that too far for me. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, when people say write what you know, if that's all people know is we'll use the example of gangbanging, right? If that's all they know, and then also understanding a lot of people who gangbang don't do it because they want to. They do it because they have no other choice. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, like you said, demonizing and throwing it all away. No,
exactly.
Also, their stories are worth telling too. You know,
I completely agree. Yeah, and just because I tell a story doesn't mean that I want you to do what I've done.
Right.
You know what I mean? I think that's the thing. Like, people say it's glorifying this. No, you're right. It is telling a story.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sorry that my story is a little risky. But what can I do about that? It's my life. You know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I love that. So you said you started playing trumpet in 5th grade. So okay, so from there, how did you I guess get to where you are now?
So I started playing trumpet in 8th grade, and I started playing trumpet in 5th grade, but in the 8th grade, I got introduced to the jazz ensemble. I went to this summer camp. My mom used to keep me in a musical camp, which I really, really appreciate. And in the camp, like, there was this jazz option, and I was like the only middle schooler who chose it. And I was playing 4th trumpet in the jazz band. So like, this is whole big band, and that's where I got introduced to jazz, and I fell in love with it. And when I got to the high school, I played in the jazz band for most of my time there. And like, that introduced me to like this other side of music that really spoke to me. I was like, okay, this is nice. You know, going back to hip hop, there's a lot of jazz influence in that 90s hip hop, which is what I gravitated to. So from there, like, I was playing in the band, and then like, there were opportunities to sing, but I wasn't really able to get in the space to sing until high school. I joined the gospel choir, and then I joined our a cappella choir, which is where you sing all of the like, oh, you know, all that, all of the spirituals, and you know, like the more traditional classical music.
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, we singing now, you know what I mean? And you can sing jazz too, and that's kind of where that happened. And then raps turned into songs, because I had a thing, which I don't necessarily like love, but if I'm honest, like, I had a thing about being a woman and rapping and the appearance of it. Like, you know, it was like, from the way my personality was and kind of still is, like, along with the whole rapping thing, I was like, I don't know if I want to like appear this way.
Yeah.
Like, that's how I ended up like going back like into like the poetry, and poetry turning into songs that I sing, and you know, just sticking with that throughout, you know, the time of being in school and not being in school, and just writing what I could. And now, you know, this is what you have from it.
Yes. So I know that you play piano.
Mm-hmm.
So how did you learn piano and guitar, right? Like,
yeah. So like, I like instruments, I guess it's safe to say.
Yeah.
I like figuring stuff out. So guitar I learned first. I learned it in high school. My dad got me a guitar, like, when we were like a Sam Ash, which is a music store in Ohio. And he bought me one, and I was like playing around with it. And then my mom got me an acoustic guitar. So I would just do what I could with it. I was like on YouTube learning how to play Chasing After You by Todd Tribbett.
Come on and play.
Yeah. And then from there, I'd be like, okay, like, trying to figure stuff out. And I stuck with guitar. Then when I went to community college, I majored in jazz.
Okay.
And one of the things, I had a teacher named Jackie, and she gave me this sheet that told me how to play any quality of chords. So I would go through the real book, which is like a fake book of like a bunch of jazz standards, and I would play all the songs I could play, like try to play.
Yeah.
And some of the friends I admired were really great piano players. And, you know, like, in my mind, I'm like, well, if I keep playing, like, maybe I can sound like them. And it's like, nah, I don't know about all that, bro. Like, they've been playing all their life.
True.
That's how I learned how to play piano and guitar. And then now the thing is just like, okay, trying to get better at it, because I got functional kind of quickly, but it's like, you know, trying to get to that other level. But yeah, that's how I did it.
Yeah. Do you feel like you struggle with discipline? I know that, like, okay. Yes. Because I know a lot of artists, like, we become so fascinated with something and like kind of run off of like inspiration versus like discipline. And so like, that's something I'm trying to like get down, because when I'm not feeling it, I'm not feeling it. Like, I'm just, So how do you like manage yourself like with building discipline?
So I'm also trying. I mean, I'm at the point where I'm like looking at YouTube videos of people's routines. Like, I didn't even know it was a thing until recently.
Yeah.
But that's where I'm at because I really need it. But like you said, if it's like not interesting anymore, I'm like, cool, whatever.
Yeah.
But I tried to tie it into like my work, like monetarily. So if like I've done some work as like a like summer camp counselor and like music teacher and things like that. And that's caused me to have discipline because I'm motivated by like being prepared for whatever my students coming. Yeah. And like kind of connecting things to work in certain ways, but I'm still trying to figure out how to do it for myself. So like before we started recording, I was talking about like having my project, right? Mm-hmm. And like that alone is taking discipline to like go through the steps to figure out what needs to be done, how it needs to be done. But what I did was I don't like sharing something with someone and then like not delivering on it. Yeah. So I've begun sharing things more. I guess it's really accountability. Yeah. That's what that is. Right. I've begun telling people like to hold me accountable. So shout out to friends and family to be like, hey, bro, like you said you were going to do this. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, I said I was going to do this. And, you know, I don't want to be a liar. So that's the thing I've done. But then also like prioritizing, like what's most important right now. If I can find out and that's sometimes hard, right? Because it's like everything's important. Everything is of equal importance. And it's like, okay, well, what is most urgent? So prioritizing between importance and urgency has helped me to be more disciplined. And I'm still figuring it out because I
mean, we're all works in progress. Like, listen, any tips? Because I think even like with this interview, like once I put a date on it and I confirm with somebody, it's like, okay, this is something that's standing, right? Yeah. It's just really easy for me to like come up with these ideas and these like, you know, goals. But then I'm like, okay, well, that was fun writing it out. Like, let's actually deliver on them and keep up the practice. Cause I'm trying to learn guitar too. Right. And so when I'm frustrated or like when practice didn't go as well as I wanted to go, like, I'm just kind of like, okay, I'm not feeling this right now. I'm just gonna, you know what I'm saying? But if I have to show up and be like you said, like have to show up and be there for other people, I'm more likely to do it because other people are counting on me.
Yeah.
So besides like discipline, what other problems have you run into, I guess, or difficulties, I should say, like have you run into with like managing yourself as an artist, like managing yourself as a student, like as a professional, like what kind of, do those things conflict at all? Like how have you managed that?
Yes, it does conflict. Like honestly, the imbalance between like my artistry and academics is probably a bit of why like college took me a while. Because I remember a friend of mine, a classmate of mine too, she came up to me and she was like, Rolanda, I've been trying to figure out how you have the time to do these songs. And then your homework or whatever. And she's like, then I realized that your priorities are just different. And I was like, you know, like back then I was like, yeah, you're right. But then when I was going back to school, I took some time off and went back. I was like, okay, my friend clearly told me that my priorities were different. I had to adjust that and not be afraid that if I put music, luckily, like, you know, God is good. I didn't have to put it completely away, but I did have to like reprioritize it and not make it first, even though I studied music. Right. But luckily, like, that music didn't go away. Like opportunities didn't go away just because it wasn't my main focus. But before getting to that point, it was my main focus. Like, oh yeah, I'm sitting here practicing piano for this exam that I have, but I'd rather write a song. And you know what I would do? I would write a song. But like, you know, after prioritizing things, I think prioritizing has changed my life as we talk. I'm realizing it. I kind of was able to kind of conquer that. And then I guess another problem for me has also been like discerning like who I should partner with as far as work, like musical work goes. I have been blessed to have some great partnerships. And then too, on the other side, some that have kind of like fallen through. And it's been difficult for me to be able to discern that from the jump and not waste time to be like, okay, lad, you said you were down. Yeah. And it's important to me to make work that's collaborative. So I used to do things by myself, but now I don't want to do that anymore. And it's like, okay, discerning who I should collaborate with and discerning like who is actually saying, you know, who's going to show up for what they say, you know what I mean? Right. And it's kind of funny because I'm trying to do that myself, you know what I mean? So I don't take it take it out too much on people, because I think most people have good intentions.
Yeah.
But those are a couple of problems that come to mind now. You know what I mean?
So there are a couple of things you said, but one of the things I want to talk about is community. I think like as artists, especially like independent, just like doing things on their own, artists, they feel like they have to do everything themselves, or they feel like they can't trust people like with their art, with their music. You know what I'm saying? It's like, are you going to get my vision? Are you really going to care about it as much as I care about? Like, how do you like, and of course people would say like, maybe that's ego or whatever, or like pride or whatever. But like, I really feel like it's a real fear. And I know it's a fear for me, like collaborating with people. Yeah. And then it's also like, if we collaborate, am I going to be, if I'm helping somebody else in their project, am I really going to be useful? Like the pressure is different when it's my own thing. I could just like do whatever. But when it's somebody else's stuff, it's like, I want to treat your thing as precious as you treat it. So like, how do you like work through that? Like that feeling of, do you have that feeling, one? And then how do you work through that feeling to, I guess, have the courage to jump into a partnership with somebody?
Yeah. Well, yes, I definitely have that feeling. I have the trust issues and the anxiety that comes around collaboration. And I have fear around it too, like fear that it caused me not to jump. I'm like, oh, this will be dope. But it's like, what do I say? Yeah. What if they don't like it? What if they don't like me? Like all these things. But like, I think one of the things, or the main thing that pushes me is like, God constantly reminds me that like the gift is not mine. I just get to hold it.
Yeah.
And like, because of that, like I can't just sit on it. You know what I mean? Like I have to do something, and I have to go where he's leading, and I have to take the risk. You know what I mean? And we can identify it as a risk. Like, I think that's helpful to say like, this is risky. It's risky for me to trust you with what feels like is mine. You know what I mean? And what if you don't handle it right? You know what I mean? That's risky. And I think it's worth acknowledging that, as opposed to being like, I say like, you know, I'm nice to myself, but I'm like, you punking out, bro. You know, like, give me a punk. But like, I am nice to myself in most settings. You know what I mean? But that's kind of the reality of it. And being like, okay, that is scary. It is risky, but you have to have the courage, because this is not yours. Yeah. And I think, you know, I can only speak for myself, but the music that I make and the songs that I feel like I'm giving are not just for me. Like, and they're not just for people to pat me on the back, you know what I mean? And be like, oh, bro, that was dope. Like, nah, like the responsibility is bigger. And because of that, like I have a responsibility to figure out how I can get out of my own way and do what I'm supposed to do. So that's like the philosophical version of it. But practically, I think like listening to like wise counsel, like people tell me what's best, and it usually involves something risky, right? And then I'll try to play it safe, and then it'll be like I'm probably more disappointed, because it's like, this was nothing like what they told you to do. Yeah. Like, this is nothing like what you were advised to do. And I think that humility piece is real. Like we're artists, we're creatives. We have pride. Yeah. We have pride. And, you know, the whole part of the game is like, Lord, help me to quench this. Like, I don't want to be prideful. And yeah, I think working with people kind of calms that down. You know what I mean? Because there's criticism that happens. You know what I mean? And there is like, people want to change stuff. And it's like, I don't know if I want you to do that. You find out what you want. Yes. Nerve-wracking. But sometimes it's beautiful. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's like, okay, can I let go of it? And knowing that it's not really mine to begin with kind of helps me to let go of it. So
yeah. No, that's really good. That's really good. Because I definitely feel like that pride piece like keeps us from experiencing some great things. Because like the fear of what other people think, right? Like the fear of criticism, of course, like, but also like what other people think, the fear of, I guess, being judged. Because I really feel like the fear is like death, right? The fear is death, the death of, you know, your reputation, or like your, you know what I'm saying? Like what other people feel, and protecting that pride sometimes, most times is really usually not as beneficial as we think it is, like playing it safe. Yeah. And I feel like the things, like the saying goes, like you go further when you have more people along, but it might, the thing is with people, because they're people, that people always come with their things, you know what I'm saying? And I think working by yourself, it's like, I just have myself to manage versus like 5 other people. And it's like, okay, let's all get it together. But it's easier to sustain with more people because the burden is lighter. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
that's
But
very real.
yeah, but I also wanted to talk to you about, oh my gosh, you were saying, oh my goodness, hold on. It'll come to me in 2 seconds.
Okay.
Somebody's working outside. Sorry for you to hear that. Like someone's knocking. Oh yes, okay. So you were talking about like what came to mind when you were talking earlier about like being in school and like reprioritizing things. Like I feel like a lot of people feel pressure to like do everything now. Like I have to figure out a way to like make everything fit into right now. And I think the fear might be that they'll miss their time or like they'll miss their opportunity. And so like that's something I know I struggle with. Like it's like I gotta do all the things now. And I feel like some of that pressure is coming from inside of myself, but I feel like it's also coming from like the world standards, like what they find successful, like this hustle culture. It's like, you got to do everything now, do it big, do it, go ham. But at the same time, I really feel like God wants us sometimes to do things slower, like more deliberately, you know what I'm saying? And because I told you before we even started recording, it took me 9 years to get my degree. And so I was feeling like, oh, I'm a horrible student and I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed because I'm supposed to get it in 4 years. And it's like, well, who made this rule? Who said that you have to get it in 4 years? Like, as long as you get it, or maybe you decide that you don't need it. You know what I'm saying? And you keep
That's real, yeah.
Yeah, like, so how did you become okay with putting something on pause or on a back burner, even though it's still there, but not pursuing it fully and finishing one thing? Like, how did you do that?
Okay. I feel you. I like this part. Okay, I like this. I like it all, but this is just closer to my heart and it's fresh too, you know? I think that like it was like God led in ways that like I didn't realize it was happening. So I had like a series of experiences that showed me like what was important.
Yeah.
And music wasn't it. Which was kind of funny. I was working like these different jobs, very random jobs at a point, like furniture store and a restaurant. And I had been working with children prior to that, but there came a point where I just needed more money. So I was like, you know what? I'm not at school. I need some money.
Absolutely.
I ended up working these jobs. And while I was at the restaurant, making decent money, but the environment was terrible. I felt led to like go back and working with children.
Yeah.
And it does not pay well. Yeah. And I was like, Lord, like, you want me to go back to working with children? Like, I love them, but like, how can I ever, how can I record my album, whatever? That was what most important. I wasn't sure that I could go back to school at that point. So I go work with children for that summer at a summer camp. And like, it was so clear that is what was important, that I'm called to children. Yeah. And like, from there, I tried to go back to like a part-time kind of situation. And then I ended up being a full-time tutor I did an AmeriCorps service year.
Okay.
And I was a full-time tutor at a school, and it just amplified it even more. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, this is like my purpose. You know what I mean? And from there, like I have to like think about how I got back to school, because I wasn't thinking about school. Like, it was over. But working with the children and seeing like, the possibilities for them, I was like, I have to finish to like back up what I'm telling them. Yeah. You know what I mean? About you can do what you believe, whatever your dream is. I don't know, like, people don't always believe that, but I think it's true. It takes hard work to achieve your dreams, but you can like, and I was like, I have to finish to figure that out. And that it all became clear, like, in that way. And music was not a part of that. I was a reading tutor at that point. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I wasn't leading worship in church. Like, I was writing a lot of songs, but like, it was about the life that I was living. Like, there wasn't a lot of music happening at that point. So I guess I got my why, and then was led by that to, like, go back to school, and God worked that out financially, which was the reason I wasn't in school. I mean, worked it out. And then I went back to school, and everything went smoothly from there. Maybe that was the problem the first time, is that I didn't have a why. You know, I had what I wanted or what I believed. And I think that's okay. Like, it's okay that, I think that's why it's okay for things to be stretched out. Like you said, like, who creates these time things? You know what I mean? Like, and a lot of people, I'm not shading anybody or anything like that. A lot of people are stressed out trying to meet it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And if you can, like I was too, like watching people around me. But if you can be okay with yourself, if you can accept yourself, if you can learn yourself to know what, you know, is appropriate for you, then I think we're like better off. You know what I mean? So if we know why we're doing something, and then we, like the Bible says, like, you got to count the cost.
Yes.
Like, and after you've counted the cost, if you say it's going to take me 7 years to pay this off, like,
okay,
sure. You know, I call it the scenic route. So there's nothing wrong with it.
That's
like,
good.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to add one more thing to that, a lot of times I tell people I just graduated, and they're like, oh, it's okay. And I'm like, I'm not ashamed anymore.
Yes.
I want people to know that it took me this long. I want people to know that I was in and out and in and out and in and out, that I started at community college, because I don't hear that story very often.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it's important, that story is important and is valid. And I think it will cause more people to try to do the things that feel overwhelming for them. Sure, I can't build a house in 3 weeks, but if you give me 3 years, I might be able to do it. You know what I mean? And that's okay.
Yeah. I love that. I love that. The scenic route. I love that.
Yeah.
And same. Like when people, I'd be like, yeah, it took me 9 years. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, especially when people are like, when people say like, oh yeah, you know, it's taking me a little longer. It's like, okay, girl, it's fine. Like, you know, but yeah, this pressure, this being stressed out, trying to fit some sort of timeline, definitely been there. Definitely do it.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to work through that. So that was good. That was for me.
Yeah.
So you said that you had to find your why for finishing. Like, so what is your why for creating music? Like,
okay, my why for creating music has turned into, like, I want people to know that you can trust God, and I want people to know that you can try again. Like, if I had to just say it in 2 ways, like, that's it. That's the message I want people to know. He's worthy to be trusted. And because of that, whatever it is that you want to do, whether you failed or whether you tried and it didn't work out or whatever, you can try again, and you can try again, and you can try again with trusting God. And that's the message. And I guess the why is that music is the vehicle. It works. It affects people in a really strong way. It affects me. You know what I mean? Before I started writing songs or sharing songs, music was my diary. You know what I mean? It was where I was like super honest. I think worship is important. That's where worship kind of comes in. You know, like, there's a lot of different styles of worship, but I think we have our own kind of personal styles too. And this is mine. You know what I mean? And, you know, try to make it, like, you know, palatable, like, you know, put a couple verses, put some structure in it, so it's not just like one wavy kind of thing. But I think that's why music is the way to do it for me in this way. I think it impacts people, and that's the tool God gave me. I'm running with whatever he gives me. So
So let me ask you this. Would you consider yourself like a Christian artist? I mean, yes, you are a Christian and you're an artist, but I guess, like, because I know some people try to avoid that title because they don't want to be like put in a box. Like, I mean, yeah, but like, how do you feel about that?
That's so hard because, like, okay, so I would love to be a Christian artist. I'm still trying to figure this out. That's why I don't know the answer.
No, that's good.
I would love to be a Christian artist if they would, whoever they is, would let me talk about other things. If we could widen our idea of what Christian things are. Yeah. Like, as a Black person, like, me holding this bottle is a Black person holding the bottle. This is a horrible analogy, but I'm gonna use it, right? Like, that it is what it is. Like, if I hold this as a Christian, it's a Christian holding a bottle. Like, it doesn't have to be, we only talk about, you know, how good God is or how much we trust him or how much we love him. Like, I want to talk about how, like, me and my best friend are no longer best friends anymore, and that hurts. I want to talk about like I keep messing up in this relationship and it's time for me to go. Like that's the stuff I want to talk about. So if whoever they is will let me be a Christian artist and talk about that stuff without dogging me, I would love to do that.
Yeah.
And that's something I'm trying to figure out now, like with releasing my project, like what songs do I put on it? Do I only put on my Christian songs? And if I do that, am I a liar for like later on, like talking about something that's random? And I think there's like a boldness, and there's some artists who've kind of led the way for that, like Molly Music and Jonathan McReynolds. They've done it, and I really like the way Jonathan McReynolds has done it, because he doesn't say like, oh, I'm going to talk about something different. Comparison Kills, I don't even think mentions God or anything like that, but it's still a Christian concept. Comparison Kills. So I'm trying to figure that out. I wish there was more room for people to authentically be themselves and not have to like appear a certain way. And I would love to like be a part of figuring that out, like by doing. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at with it.
I like that, because I mean, in the same way, it's like, yes, technically Christians who are artists are Christian artists, but but this box that you place their art in, it's so confining. And I had this talk with somebody about like, what is secular music? You know what I'm saying? Like, what exactly, if I'm not deliberately like being like, oh, praise God, and you know, just like you talking about how the goodness of him and how he's amazing. If I go out here and write a song about trees that he created, you know what I'm saying? And like, oh, these trees are amazing. Is that not like, is that secular? Is that bad? You know what I'm saying? And I really feel like when we read the scripture, like when we read the scriptures and we see the stories being played out, you know, of the people like David, like he's one of my favorites because he's like, life sucks. You know what I'm saying? Life is hard. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And making no apologies for it. No apologies for his feelings or his reaction to his feelings, owning them 100%. But at the end of the day, he's still saying, but you are God, but you are good. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like I feel like that's why it's such a turnoff for some people. Like, I don't want to hear gospel music. Sometimes I don't want to hear people yelling at me talking about how good God is when I feel like trash right now.
Yeah.
That's not what I need. What I need is to see my stories in song on paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to see the hope in that it does get better after this. It does, you know what I'm saying? So, so I really admire artists, who are honest. And I also think, and it's just kind of like a tangent, but I also think that God is honored in that. God is that is the truth. Like if you speak your truth, you and your friend are not friends no more and it hurts. I feel like he is glorified in that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and to me, it would be a lie to not be honest. You know what I'm saying? To not be like, this is actually what I'm feeling. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think it's low key a witnessing opportunity, like witnessing opportunity. It's like it's room. It's an open door, right? Because I think some people see the church or see some of the churches and see some parts of Christianity and say, I would never fit into that. Like, I don't feel that way. And when the reality is that we are hiding a lot of things that happen in our lives. And if we were honest and open about those things, then like you said, people could see themselves and be like, oh, so like they do take people like me.
Yep.
We are just like you. We the same. You know what I mean? Like, I'm just highlighting this part that I've been told is acceptable. And I don't think it's everybody's job either. Like, we got to have the person who is writing music for the for congregation and for corporate worship, right? But like at the same time, like if you don't want me to go listen to Drake when I'm in my feelings, somebody has to write, you know, the Christian Drake songs.
That's real. That's so real. And it is both are important. So yes, I noticed you mentioned the song Comparison Kills. Like, have you ever struggled with comparing yourself to other artists or like to other people's talents in like a detrimental way?
Yes, I did. I guess I do now in other ways. So like, I had a really big thing with this. When I first came to Howard, I'm going to talk in a circle to get back.
You're fine.
When I first came to Howard, I thought that I was going to like, I really want to be in this jazz ensemble. Like, it's not the whole reason that I went to Howard, but it's a big portion of it. Like, I was like studying the church back in Cleveland before I transferred. Like, I sang with a friend of mine who was a part of the group. I'm like, I'm gonna get in. This audition is gonna be great. I did not. I never made it in. I auditioned lots of times. Like,
Oh,
and I never made it in. And I was like, yo, I was getting advice from people who was in the group. Like, should I sing like this? Okay, cool. Never made it in, right? And caused me to compare myself. Because before that, it wasn't really a problem that I had, because I think the way that my family like raised me was to be like, confident in who I was. And I had always been kind of a little different. And I was cool with that because I was around people who were also different. But that was like, that rejection really caused me to look at myself like, what is wrong with me? And like looking at them like, okay, like they're doing this, and really trying to duplicate what they were doing.
Yeah.
And nothing really seemed to work until I realized that maybe it's not for me. Like, or I'm not for it. Like, that's okay too.
Yeah.
And my friend, a good friend of mine, was telling me like, Rolanda, like, it's okay. Like, you don't have to be part of this. You don't have to be like that. You can like, it's really adjusting my vision. But that is where I've kind of struggled with comparison. But like getting through it, I think like getting through it is like, I think that thing of being honest, like, okay, why did this work or why did this not work? Is it not for me? Am I not for it or whatever? But like trying to be the best that I can be and outlining exactly what that is. And around that time is when I started writing a lot more and actually sharing. Because it was like, yo, like, I got to do something. I came all the way to DC. Like, this experience is nothing like I thought it would be. So let me learn how to, produce a track and put my music out. And that's kind of where that came from. And I think like sometimes like that, I'll call it a rebound, really like kind of catapulted me to like feel very confident about what I was doing, because what else was I going to do?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's what I have.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use what I have. So, yeah.
No, I like that. that was really good. No, like even when you said it's not for me or I'm not for it, like instead of like trying to force ourselves into these spaces, actually seeing the opportunity. And I feel like that's what you did, like seeing the opportunity, like, okay, well, I'm not just going to sit around and like, while you may have sulked for a while, which is fine, right? You still like, okay, get my bearings. Let's figure out what the next step is. And I feel like a lot of people get caught in that rejection and like, oh, well, it's all over. Like, you know what I'm saying? But I really feel like the rejection is a part of the story. It's the setup for what is next,
Yeah, for sure. Cause like, why would we want to be a part of something that, this could be like the bitter part of me talking, but I think I'm healed from it. Why do we want to like be a part of something that doesn't want us for whatever reason? Because it's okay. There are things that we don't want. You know what I mean? And like, there are also things that we have to grow into. So like, and that was the thing too, discerning like, okay, can I grow into this? No, like it's not for you. Or you're not for it, whatever it is. But like some things you got to grow into, and you got to be honest about that. Like with yourself, like if I can't be honest with me, how can I grow? And how can I listen to anyone else who's being honest with me? Because I'm automatically gonna call them a liar. Because I have this narrative in my mind, right? That I'm that I got it all. I'm gonna be cool. Like, no, it's not true. Sometimes there are things that we need to work on. Sometimes we gotta improve. And that's okay. But I agree with you. Like sometimes it's hard to change our minds. I wanted this. I decided that I wanted this. I went for this. I was rejected. I feel shame. I tried and I failed. Like all those emotions are hard to work through, but like we got to.
Ain't got no other choice.
Yeah.
So let's talk about everything going on right now. You're a Black woman. And so, living in America right now that's basically on fire, so to speak. And I feel like for a lot of Black folk, it's like, this isn't new. Like it's new as in it's getting a lot more support. It's getting more, I guess, views, so to speak. But I feel like this has been a time that Black folk have been living in for forever, since we've gotten here. So how are you feeling about everything going on, and how are you using music to kind of, I guess, work through that?
Okay. How am I feeling? I feel so many ways. I am mostly, if I'm honest, I'm mostly sad. Like sad doesn't even capture it. That's not even the word. Like I can't stand that things are still this way. In the bigger picture of racism with white and Blackness, you know what I mean? And that, and then even things within our own community that we have issues with, and the intersections of Blackness and every other thing, whether it's there, every other part, every way that Black people have these intersections. And it saddens me like deeply, because I want it to be over, and it's like everybody does, right? So that's like how I feel about it on that personal level. If I'm just sitting here by myself, and then there's anger, there's frustration. I am searching for hope, and hope that's like real, like not like, oh, you know, I can ignore everything and be in my room writing songs about lilies and things. Like that's not real hope. So and that way it's kind of like, you know, discouraging. But the hope that I do have, like, is that things are coming out. So I think it's getting a lot of attention, because what we've always known, like, this is a rotten apple, like now it's broken open and everybody sees the worms and things, and you cannot ignore it. So some things that I think that people are doing and society is doing is performative. Like, this is just your performative reaction. And next year, this time, if we don't keep, you know, holding your feet to the fire, you're going to go back to what you were doing. I think that is true, but I think that we can use that. You know what I mean? I think if we stay in this state, like it's a really agitating state to be in and exhausting. But if we stay this way and we hold their feet to the fire, then like things have to change. You know what I mean? And with that exposure, like we can't ignore it, yo. Like, I'm glad that everybody sees it for what it is. And I'm glad that we see who can't see it. You know what I mean? I'm glad that it exposes other people. And it's like, dang, some folks we never would have known. You know what I mean? I really thought you was down, but you are not. Yeah, so that's kind of where I'm at with it. How have I used music? So I go between this thing, because I'm a Christian, right? There's a certain way that I feel called to react to things. So initially I'm angry. I want to go out and set a fire, you know, like all these different things. Like, if I'm honest, like, but then it's like, okay, the Lord's like, okay, I understand that you're angry, but no, like, and I wrote a song, it's called Flesh and Blood. And like the chorus is like, we do not wrestle with flesh and blood, but against the power of darkness, and evil there in the highest place. In my mind, I'm reminded, as a child of God, I don't fight the same. And I wrote that song, and like originally that in my mind, I'm reminded, like, wasn't there. It was just, we do not wrestle with flesh and blood. And I was like, all right, we don't wrestle with flesh and blood, but that feels like they're the ones who kind of getting at us. Mm-hmm. And God was just kind of showing me like, no, like if you want real change, you got to fight differently. Like, you are fighting a system, and this system sure it inhabits people. But if every racist was wiped off of the earth, there would still be racism. Why? Because it's in our systems. And it's like, yo, just trying to figure out how can we destroy these systems. You know what I mean? And like, I think part of it is we have to be led by the Holy Spirit. And that's scary, right? It's easier for me to feel like I'm doing something if you see me breaking it down. But like, if the Lord leads me in I'm passionate about work and vocation. If the Lord leads me in my work, you know what I mean? Then sure, I'll be, you know, like I'll be able to do this. It's long-term work, but it's something that I'll break it down. I've seen people change their career paths, you know what I mean? And choose like more selfless things. I feel like to choose selfless things, you know what I mean? And less of what I wanted. And it's not that I don't want it, but you know, it's a little harder to do something like that that's going to impact the futures of my children and their children. So I've been using music to cope by writing and as reminders. I've been using music to listen, like some of these old songs compared to what is an old song that I love. Roberta Flack has a version, John Legend has a version, and it's so full of truth. I'm sad that it's still relevant today, but it helps, you know what I mean? Because it's hard to find hope these days. Hope that feels real. So
yeah. I the fact that you said like these songs are still relevant, like nothing has changed. I was listening to Donny Hathaway's Someday We'll All Be Free. That's one of my favorite songs.
Yeah, mine too.
Yes, like period. And like the feeling, like the pain, you could just hear, you could feel the pain in that song. And it's like, yo, like, even though the song is not technically that old, right? But it's still old enough where you still hear the song with the same pain and like hope that you felt like back then. I'm guessing I wasn't alive back then, but still, you know, or what is it? Sam Cooke, a change is gonna come. Like, it's the same stuff, you know what I mean? And I think for a lot of people, their eyes are just being open to like, oh, snap. And to me, it's crazy because I'm like, how are your eyes have not been open before? I don't understand. But like the fact that people can see it now, that rotten apple you're talking about.
Yeah.
Sorry, the banging. I'm like, okay.
Okay.
So, anywho, yeah, I know that you're talking about you're using music almost as like, it almost sounds like music is therapeutic right now.
Yeah.
And so how in everyday life, how are you using music? How are you using music? Sure. But also, how are you taking care of yourself? Like, even if music is not involved, like what are your habits and things like that to keep yourself in spirit and like up your well-being?
Yeah. Ironically, I don't listen to as much music as I used to now. Like, it's like, it's kind of like sad. Like, I go and put it on. I have to remember, like, let's go play some music. But honestly, I think it's like my community, like talking to friends and having like these healthy dialogues with people who understand, like, and not like trying to also, one way I'm being careful about like what I interact with in social media too. Cause, like everybody doesn't get it. We don't have the same backgrounds. Like there's no way for me to make up for, or for me to understand completely your stance if I don't know you. You know what I mean? And I'm not going to dog you for it. Like it is what it is. I'm just not going to, I'm learning not to interact, but really those conversations with friends, and disagreeing with people too. Like one of my flaws is I like to be right. I enjoy being correct, but I'm not right a lot of the time, right? And talking to people who are my friends who are more informed than me, and disagreeing and learning and growing and changing my mind, has kind of helped me to see things in a more healthy way. You know what I mean? Also, that goes into like, trying to do some reading, and like following different people who are in the know, you know what I mean? Because my passion is not enough to lead me, you know what I mean? So that's one of the ways. Also, like, I have been taking rest too, like, because it's funny, like, before Ahmaud Arbery, like, it was quarantine, and, like, for me, social justice is always in my mind, but it wasn't where it is right now, right? And so I was just kind of like, enjoying the rest. Beginning to enjoy the rest because I was still in school for much of the first part of quarantine. So like I had just begun to rest. And then this happened, and it's like, okay, a new source of, something else is taking my attention, but being intentional about resting, because Lord willing, we don't ever have to go through this again, right? And while I'm staying in the house and, doing what I'm supposed to do, like this is an opportunity to rest. And I got a feeling that this next season is going to be like taking off. Like we got work to do. So I want to be rested for that work. So that means, you know what I mean? Like I don't watch TV during the day. I will only watch it like in the evenings, like after 5 or whatever. Just cause I don't want to be caught up in like consuming junk and stuff like that. But trying to rest, you know what I mean? On top of everything else. So.
No, that's really good. Resting is definitely a word that's been kind of, I guess, resonating in my heart lately. Like just taking time, like just taking things at a slower pace, but also just like recuperating, like regenerating. Like the only time that we can really heal, honestly, is when we rest. The only time that we can really like, you know what I'm saying, fill back up. And it's crazy because again, in this culture, it's always like, do, like you have to do all this stuff, right? And God literally gave us rest as a gift. It's a gift, you know what I'm saying? And like, he knows left to our own devices, we'll always be striving. We'll always be trying to achieve something, trying to prove our worth. But and so even like this idea of like, oh yeah, earn your sleep, or like you can sleep when you die. It's counterintuitive to what God is saying. Like, he's like, nah, like you exist. You need sleep. You need rest. Like you need those times with your friends where you're not doing anything. You need those times where you're creating music where it's not really for anything. It's just for like to spend time with me. Like I find that sometimes when I'm like just playing the guitar, like trying to learn chords, like I'll sing something that's on my heart. You know what I'm saying? And it's not a song. It's just, you know what I'm saying? It's a prayer. It's like spending that intimate time with him. And I really feel like quiet is like something I'm trying to embrace more of, like just quiet. Like life is so noisy, like clearly right now. But also like, but also just like always like, oh, I have to listen to a podcast, or I have to listen to like this music, or I have to whatever. Like, honestly, sometimes in that quiet, that's the only time we can really hear our own thoughts, but also like God's thoughts and his leading. So I feel like a lot of people are in that place of like rest and trying to, I guess, redefine what that looks like.
Yeah, for sure. I feel you on that. Quiet too. Like
Yeah.
quietness can be scary. Like, especially after life has been so busy and so chaotic, like that silence can be a little scary because like you get to see like sides of yourself that you didn't really know were there. And just that being alone with your thoughts. But I think eventually like it's like, okay, these are things I need to face. And like you said, like being able to hear God's voice and it being clarified during that time, I feel you. And I gotta do better with that myself. Because I'm somebody who always has, I used to always have something playing before this. Like before I would always like you the podcast and the music, like you just said. But like no, sometimes we need to be still and be silent. So I feel you on that.
Yeah. And so I have to further, I guess, talk about like self-care and all this stuff. I feel like that phrase has been like thrown around. It's so like trendy, but I really feel like self-care is attainable for everybody. Like it might not be like a retreat. It might not be, going to the spa or whatever. But there are things that we can do in our everyday lives to really take care of ourselves. Yeah. So I also think that sometimes creating can be like a depleting thing. Like it can be, while it can like rejuvenate and like make you like pumped up, I still feel like it takes a lot of energy out of you. How do you like refill your well? Like what are things that you do to refill your well to create?
Okay, how do I refill my well to create? Honestly, I think that I live, you know what I mean? Like, and that's not self-care at all because living comes with its own thing. But like, I try to go live and experience life in order to create, which I think might be why I had a difficult time creating at the beginning of quarantine because it wasn't a lot of living happening. It was just, chilling and resting. Also, I try to read and listen. I'm a podcast person. And I don't know if therapy fits in here, but I got a therapist over quarantine. So that also helps because I see myself, it's like a mirror. And I see myself honestly from that experience and then, walk away with tools to be able to, be better so that I can create something worth consuming. So, yeah.
I'm all for therapy. I'm here for therapy. Everybody can use therapy. Like, I think like there doesn't even necessarily have to be anything wrong to go to therapy. Sometimes you just go to therapy for maintenance. And also I feel like people are really, I guess, intimidated by that word therapy or like counsel or whatever. But even in scripture, like it talks about seek wise counsel. Like that's the same thing. Like, So yeah, I love it. I'm here for it. Yeah. So what dreams do you have for, if any, or if you're just along for the ride, what dreams do you see for yourself in the future? I guess maybe like the next 5 to 10 years, like for your music, for your professional life, like what do you see for yourself?
Okay. It's funny if you say like, it's okay if you don't, because you're along for the ride. Like I live on the line because you can plan and then life will do its thing. Lord will do its thing. But I do try to have, sorry. Okay. So I see myself like musically like touring, and, creating consistent, like putting music out consistently. And like, that's my dream. Like I want to tour. I want to be a full-time musician. I want to be a full-time artist. And ideally, you know what I mean? I would do workshops during the day. Got a concert Friday night. Friday morning, I'm doing a workshop. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of what I would love for my life to look like that in the next 5 to 10 years. I also, but kind of getting to that point, I want to do more with music therapy in the Black community. And even in like Latinx community, like communities of color, because we don't always see music therapy. Like a lot of people don't know what it is. We could use it though. We really could. So I'm trying to figure out ways to incorporate it and introduce it to our people. Those are those things, obviously like family things coming up, you know what I mean? However the Lord chooses to do that in his timing and however it comes up. But those are my goals. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah.
I love I love when Black folk take what they learn and take it back to their community. Cause you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like for some stuff, like you said, people don't know, like, what is music? Like, what does that even look like? And we have this idea of what it looks like, or even like art therapy or just therapy in general. Like that word for a lot of Black folk is just like off-putting, like, nah, I'm a whatever. but like, we don't even realize, and not even like in a professional sense, but we don't even realize how much music is therapy anyway in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
so making it accessible, I feel like is important. Making it not, I guess, palatable. Is that the word I'm looking for? Like making it attainable. Like,
Yeah, I think accessible is it. Yeah.
yeah. I
Yeah,
think that's really important.
for sure. I completely agree. And like the thing is, like, okay, so accessible, people having access to it. Because a lot of times it's like, even if I did know music therapy is, there's no way for me to get it. Because it's like
Mhm.
out deep in Maryland somewhere, you know what I mean? And like, sure, you could drive over there, but like, who's trying to drive an hour to do that? You know what I mean? And then to somebody who might not look like me,
Mhm.
and may not understand my experience. You know what I mean? And sure, like music therapists are trained to, uphold like some ethical values, but the reality is there's nothing like sitting across from somebody who shares some of your experience,
Yes. Yes.
And like, I don't know, I'm really big on what you said about like taking what you learned and bringing it back to the community.
Yeah.
Cause that's what our parents and our grandparents did.
Yep.
Like, and the thing is like, sure, we stand alongside like all these other Americans who have these long histories, but we're still building ours. Like, it's just a little different for us, and that's okay. But we have a responsibility. I'm sorry, like I can't take what I've learned, and which was kind of hard to get. Like, I can't take that and just go run off somewhere. You know what I mean? I got to go back to where I came from. So, yeah, I feel you.
I love that, and I resonate with what you said about like, because I've been trying to like find a therapist just for myself, and I had one, but my insurance changed, so whatever, long story.
Yeah.
So when I was going to a therapist, the woman was white, and so in my mind, let me keep an open mind, let me just whatever. But I felt like she couldn't, like, a lot of the stuff that I would say, she pitied me, and I felt like it wasn't really help. I don't need your pity. I'm looking for like help and like the tools to process what's going on.
Yeah.
And I feel like if it was another Black woman, which I had before, like if it was her, like she wouldn't pity me. She'd be like, no, I feel you. And this is what we're going to do to work through this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's actually been a conversation that a couple friends of mine have had about that thing of pity and sympathy versus like empathy and understanding. Like, I don't need you to be like, oh, darn, that really sucks. No, like,
I know.
right, which is why I'm telling you to help me. Like, yeah, I feel you, yo. And like, just a plug, like, I'm not sponsored by them, but like, BetterHelp is clutch. Like, BetterHelp is an app. It's an app for therapy. Like, and you put in what you want. If you want to be Christian, like Black or woman, there are like lots of different options. And then they round it up. You put in your zip code. They round up a crew of people. Then you look at their list and you pick. And if you don't like them, then you can cancel and go to someone else.
The beauty of it. Yes.
Yeah. So that might be helpful as you like try to figure it out, because COVID is making things even harder. So
yes, it is. And I appreciate that. I'm definitely gonna check that out, because it's almost like going on dates. Like, it's like, no, not really feeling it. Like, that exhausting process of like trying to find somebody who like, yes, like this is what I yeah.
For sure.
That's good. So if you were to look back at yourself, I find that, so the question is, what advice would you give somebody who's just starting out or trying to, work through? But I feel like sometimes it's better to look back at yourself, like give yourself the advice you needed maybe like 10, 15 years ago. Like, so 10 or 15 years ago, what advice would you give yourself? Or if you were just starting out, what advice would you give yourself looking back now?
Okay. I would say, listen to the people around you who love you. Like, they're not wrong. I had a hard time of like I had a thing about trying to like make my own way. You know what I mean? And for whatever reason, like, I don't know, I felt like I knew what was right. I felt like I knew what I should do. And when I look back over my life, I see like that people were like trying to like say like, hey, Rolanda, like maybe not, like maybe not. And had I listened, I'm grateful that I didn't, because now I know how important listening is. Like, ultimately, I don't want to change anything, but if I could talk to me now, though, like if I had a me, it would be like, listen. I would grab myself by the shoulders and say, listen. And I think that's the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So I want to ask you, if there's a woman that you're thinking of that has inspired you, or like that you're like fascinated with or whatever, like a Black woman who inspired you that you want to shout out.
Okay, does it have to be like everybody has to know? Okay, cool. So I want to shout out my sister and friend Tanisha Fair. So I've known Tanisha since high school. So we've been friends for years. And she's like really offered a lot of wisdom for me during this last season of my life. And then just watching her kill the game in her own life, bounce back from some obstacles and just kill it professionally and personally. She really inspires me. I admire her. And I'm grateful for her, her example and like the wisdom she gives me. So I want to shout out Tanisha Fair. She's awesome.
Shout out to you. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And so one last question before we, I guess, talk about your song. What to you is the definition of freedom? And well, so firstly, I guess it's a two-part question. So to you, what is the definition of freedom, of being a free Black woman?
Of being a free Black woman. For me right now, freedom looks like being able to do what I said I want to do. And for me, that means having everything that I need to do it, which includes discipline and access and clear vision and those things. That's when I'll be free. So freedom actually looks a lot more structured than I thought it would look. It means being able to create that path and having what I need inside as an individual to walk it and get to where I'm trying to go.
That's good. Structure and freedom. It sounds like they don't, like, it sounds oxymoronic, right? But but actually that makes sense.
It's funny, like just a little tidbit. I learned that from school, like trying to be studying to be a music therapist. Cause like, okay, you think about a child, they come into your classroom or your setting or whatever, right? If you have nothing to do for them, they can hurt themselves. They'll get bored. They're going to annoy you. But if you have that structure, it's a really good time. So I'm learning that applies in my own life too.
Yeah, I love that. And do you think at this point, do you think you're free? And if not, what do you think it will cost you to become free?
No. When I hear the question, I think of other. Oh, no. I said not. Like I think of other versions of freedom. I'm like, I don't know. But as far as the definition that I made, like, right. I'm on my way. And unfortunately, there's another side to that freedom. When I'm free from like myself and the things that I get in my own way about, there are other things that I don't feel completely free about living in this world. You know what I mean? There are a lot of obstacles that we got to overcome, and I've seen it be done. Like not just by people who we all look up to, but even by family members and friends. But I guess I'm on my way, and the answer, I guess, is kind of like in that middle. Like, sure, I'm down to fly. Like, we gonna see what's up. But yeah,
I love that.
Yeah.
So please, before we talk about the song, please let everybody know where they can find you, like where you're at, how they can support you, all that stuff.
Okay, cool. Well, I am on Instagram at MISSRO Music, Miss Ro Music. I actually have a website, missromusic.com. Still being built up, but it's there. You can email me at missromusic at gmail.com. And yeah, I have a single on digital media outlets on like iTunes and stuff called Bullet Train that's available. And I have some songs on SoundCloud too, which is the same handle, Miss Ro Music. So yeah.
Yay. Thank you so much for doing this. I really appreciate it. And everything you said, like it spoke to me, and I'm sure it's going to inspire other people as well.
Yeah, I appreciate you inviting me. This has been dope. Yeah.
Of course. So please talk about your song that we're about to play. Please talk about like, how you came up with it, what it means to you, like just everything.
Yeah. So this song is called Flesh and Blood. I wrote it in the last couple of months. It means a lot to me. First, before I even talk about the message, the process, I produced it myself. And it took like me trusting myself to be like, yo, you can produce something and put it out and like do everything that you would do to it as if someone else produced it. You know what I mean? Like you got it. So I produced it, and I'm grateful for that. I'm proud of it. I'm grateful that I did it, and I'm proud of it. And as far as the message goes, it's a good reminder for me, just during this time of trying to figure out how to react to everything going on in our world and us as Black people, what was happening to us, what's happening to our community. And then me, how I'm supposed to react how I feel led to react as a Christian. And it also talks a little bit about the hard parts of that. You know what I mean? How I'm really feeling, being honest about that. So yeah. That's Flesh and Blood. I hope you guys enjoy it. I hope it touches you.
I'm
Yeah.
sure. But yes, thank you again so much for being here. And we're gonna play the song now. So
Yay.
yay.
Bricks and mortar, painted stone. If you asked me, I'd tell you I'm building my home. And it would seem this was true. I just wanna be sure of who gets in these doors, 'cause my heart's made of glass, so fragile. Eyes for beauty and inclined to love. I built windows and sunrooms, but it wasn't enough. See, I met this love who broke down the walls, and the better I know him, the harder it gets to share what he's placed in my heart. So every wall come down, Lord, make these walls come down. You made it all come down. Every wall come down. It's easy to say all the pain that I faced was because of someone else. But as I learned the truth, drawing closer to you, the finger just points to myself. But there's no need for shame. Christ has cleansed every stain. We can deal with the pain without running away. Look inside, past all my pride. I have tried, but I'm still the same. If there's anyone who knows just what I need, oh Lord, it's you. So every wall come down. Lord, make these walls come down. You made it all come down. Every wall come down. Walls come down. Walls come down.